Once a barber on the SS United States, and that is in the process of about to be sunk off of the coast here in Florida. And so I know good hair runs in your family.
Well, he cut a lot of people's good hair. I'll put it that way. Anyway, right.
Put some onion juice on Bob. Right. See if Bob grows some hair.
Like onions?
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and we want to get you straight in this Orange County Board of County Commissioners meeting where we are hearing a public comment from dozens of folks speaking out as the board gets ready to consider ratifying this ICE addendum that Mayor Demings previously said he wouldn't sign, then ended up signing. We know there are 60 speakers signed up. They've been speaking for a while. Each has 1 minute to give their public comment. Many of them are asking the county to file a lawsuit to keep fighting this, not to sign it, to determine whether the compliance is actually required by the county. So let's go ahead and listen in as this public comment continues live in Orange County right now.
Or not, DeSantis is doing just what Trump, illegal. He doesn't care. And this lawsuit that you hopefully will file, I am for that. But while it is going through the courts, if you are removed and out of office, we will have DeSantis's minions in place throughout. She came up for election before her lawsuit did. So we need you to stay in office. I want you to ratify this, because I want you in office so that you can fight for us. You can't fight for us as well when we have those minions in your place. I love the immigrants. I'm for it. I go to all the protests. But without you in power, we can't do anything. And that will drag on. And remember, our state Supreme Court is a right-wing extreme, just like our U.S. Supreme Court. So if it goes all the way up, it'll get knocked down. We've got to save our democracy. So you've got to stay in there. You do have to do what they say to a degree.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Portella. I'm a District 3 resident, 32822. And while I agree with the last speaker and I sympathize with her to an extent, if you don't stand for this, you're going to fall for anything. I urge you all to file a lawsuit with Miami. I am here on my own time and I represent myself as an individual. Martin Luther King Jr. Warned us about the silent majority. He said that it really wasn't the ones in the white hoods that were the problem. It was the ones that were in the silent majority that were just allowing this to happen. Today, you guys are in a special position to be able to stop this, at least temporarily. I come from a home in Nicaragua and Cuba, and we fled from dictatorships. My mom, when I told her about this, that you all were being threatened to removal, her first thought was how undemocratic and unjust this was. This isn't about protecting those in our community against terrible conditions in the Everglades. At least not just that. It's about upholding democracy. Please stand with us and follow the lawsuit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Mayor, that was the end of our additional 15 minutes.
All right. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you for your comments this morning. We will take your comments under advisement. We'll see where the dialogue goes later this morning, but we are going to move forward at this time on our agenda. We're going to move to the consent agenda. I'm going to ask the County Administrator, Mr. Byron Brooks, if he will.
So that is your live look inside the Orange County Commission meeting. Public comment has just wrapped up. They're now moving ahead to a couple of other items on the agenda, I should note. So they are working through the consent agenda next. It is on the discussion agenda, which is coming up later, kind of the third item after a long list of things on each of those kind of larger headings. The discussion agenda is when the ICE agreement addendum is going to come up. What's at issue here? This addendum is basically an addition to the previous agreement that was signed and agreed to by the county that also requires transport of these detainees to facilities like Alligator Alcatraz. So we do expect discussion among the Board of County Commissioners. We know there were 2 commissioners who voted against the ICE agreement the last time the county had to do this. Would expect them to kind of vote similarly this time. You heard a couple of those speakers during public comment just a minute ago refer to staying in office. You heard one of the speakers urging them to ratify this, even though they were against it, because she wants those leaders to stay in office. And you may remember the Attorney General sent a letter to the Board of County Commissioners, to the mayor, basically threatening that the governor would suspend them because they would be viewed as a sanctuary county if they did not follow through with this agreement. And so that is when last week on Friday, on a news conference that we brought you live here on Fox Local, the mayor, Jerry Demings, said that he did sign that agreement. I believe his words were under protest and under extreme duress because he said he felt like they could do more good if they were still in office rather than being replaced. And you heard some others reference that as well. So there is going to be much more coming from this meeting. I mean, that public comment went for more than an hour. Again, there were several dozen speakers, many of them, as I mentioned earlier, asking the county to continue to fight this. They said they want to be part of the challenge against the state to see whether compliance is actually required with that agreement, with that addendum. The county has maintained that they don't necessarily have a lot of the resources to be able to transport these detainees long distances, especially when you're talking about them having to go to Alligator Alcatraz. So that's a big story today. We are going to be continuing to follow this meeting. I don't expect the agreement addendum to come up in our next hour here, but we are going to keep a close eye on that in case it does, and we will bring that to you whenever that discussion does come up, even if it's outside of this this next hour or so. But that's not the only thing going on here today. I want to let you know some of what else that you can expect that's on our radar here on Fox 35 News Plus. More from Orange County, where DOGE auditors from the state are on site. We heard from Chief Financial Officer Blaise Ingoglia speaking in Orlando just a little bit ago, talking about what they are going to be doing, what they're going to be looking for, expect to be on the ground for 3 to 4 days here in the area. We also know that the DOGE teams are in Bradenton today as well. We are also tracking more activity in the tropics. Things are getting a little bit busier out there. We know Tropical Storm Dexter has formed, continuing to move away from the United States, thankfully. But other things that we're watching in the tropics as well. And we will check in with Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner here in just a little bit to talk about that. So things are just getting underway here on Fox 35 News Plus. We're going to take a quick break, but we will be right back with much more to come. So keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning and welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We were just talking about what's going on inside that Orange County Board of County Commissioners meeting. Live right now, we are continuing to monitor that as they go through items on the consent agenda and also get some updates on the things happening. I believe they're talking about some tourism and that kind of thing. Right now, it appears, in fact, they are on the discussion agenda. So things have moved along from the consent agenda to the next item on the agenda. Now they are on the discussion agenda. And we do know one of the items on that discussion agenda is going to be that ICE agreement. So stay tuned. We will keep listening in for that, and we'll let you know. Before that meeting began this morning, we did hear from one of the Orange County Commissioners, Kelly Martinez-Simrad, who represents District 5 in the county. She held what she called a Defending Your Dollars news conference this morning in response to what she says is increasing overreach by the state and state mandates that she says are continually to strip local governments of their own ability to serve their residents. She had several items in particular that were items of concern that she and some of the other leaders of organizations in the area that were joining her were talking about. One of them is the ICE agreement and the threats of removal, but that's not all. Talking about the other ways of preempting local authority as well. I want to play for you some of her remarks outside that meeting before it began just a little bit ago.
But let us be clear, because we support financial oversight, we support accountability, we support transparency. But what we do not support is political theater disguised as fiscal concern. The state claims we've added $300+ million in spending. What the state fails to recognize is that in the last 5 years, we have nearly 81,000 people that have moved to Orange County. That growth requires investment in law enforcement, fire rescue, corrections officers, and public services. But what's under audit today? Not bloated contracts, not inefficiencies. FAFO is targeting multicultural programs, environmental protection, homelessness initiatives, traffic calming projects to keep our neighborhoods safe, and more. Ask yourself, is that fiscal responsibility or political retribution? I want to speak about something very personal to me and very personal to all of the people who are standing behind me. Never in my life did I think in the United States of America that I would be told, you can vote yes, you can vote no, you can abstain, but if you don't vote the way I tell you, I will remove you from office. Let me be honest with the people. Today when I vote, the fellow commissioners and Orange County Mayor Demings, we are voting under duress. The board has been threatened to be removed. The state is pressuring every commissioner and mayor to vote in favor of amending 287G agreement, a change that would force Orange County corrections officers to transport ICE detainees nearly 500 miles round trip to Alligator Alcatraz. If we vote no, the Attorney General says we are not putting our best effort forward to implement a federal immigration program, and thus we are declaring Orange County a sanctuary county. Let me be very clear. Sanctuary counties and cities are illegal in the state of Florida. Orange County has never violated immigration enforcement of law. This threat is political coercion, plain and simple. The numbers don't lie, you guys. Every ICE detainee costs Orange County taxpayers $57 per person per day. Orange County taxpayers have spent millions and millions of dollars that we have not yet been reimbursed for. Our jail is 25% understaffed. Our officers are working mandatory overtime, and now we should expect them to drive hundreds of miles across the state to transport ICE detainees. So I ask the question, is my best effort as a county commissioner to protect our public safety from jailbreaks and to stand up for our corrections officers' safety, as well as for fiscal responsibility of our taxpayer dollars? Or is my best effort to enforce a federal immigration program that puts both of these at risk? I'll pivot to another topic, Senate Bill 180 and Vision 2050. Senate Bill 180 was passed this summer. It was written so vaguely that developers can now override the decisions of your local government and veto your 2024 votes for sustainable growth, for things like the rural boundary, for protection of our parks. If developers don't like a land use policy, right now they just declare it more burdensome and more restrictive, which is the language used in Senate Bill 180. But the law never defines what is more burdensome, what is more restrictive, and the bill's own sponsor cannot define it yet either. The state is working on the definitions with a report that is due December 1st of 2025. But for developers, what is more burdensome and restrictive? Stormwater protection to prevent flooding of our homes, affordable housing initiatives to help provide much needed affordable housing, raising impact fees so that we don't have to raise taxes on citizens. Even Orange County's voter-mandated rural boundary with 73% of our votes is considered more burdensome and restrictive. I'll pivot to another topic, Visit Orlando's audit. A broken system that has misused millions. Last week, the Visit Orlando audit revealed what we feared. Millions of taxpayer dollars were misused. $75,000 dinners, skybox tickets, personal car payments, designer office and decor, refrigerators. Visit Orlando receives more than $100 million in public funds, and I want to be clear, we expect those funds to be used for tourism promotion, and Visit Orlando has its place, but its place is not $100 million. Let's zoom out and really look at the real issue here. It's the tourist development tax model is broken. It's over a half a century old, and it's written for a different time. It favors special interests while blocking local leaders from using that money to improve our quality of life, from using that money to improve the tourist experiences in our destination, investing in things like transit, safety, infrastructure, bicycle safety, public services. We host 75 million tourists a year. They use our roads, they drink our water, they call for our police, they call for fire. Yet the state will not allow us to legally use that revenue to maintain the systems that tourists rely on for their safety when they visit us. It's not just an outdated model, you guys, it's absurd. What is further absurd is to propose raising our sales tax to cover the cost of transit and infrastructure when we could use the tax revenue from 75 million non-residents to help fix our transit challenges. Again, we must defend our dollars. In a final word, let's connect the dots. A political audit, a coercive vote, a veto of local land use planning, and a tourism tax system we aren't allowed to fix. These are not isolated incidents. They are a pattern of control, a pattern of punishment, a pattern of silencing local government, and a pattern of misusing public dollars. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not take an oath to serve political agendas. I took an oath to serve the people of Orange County, to protect our safety, to defend our dollars, and to fight for our future, and that is what I will continue to do. We're not here today to stir conflict. We're here to draw a line. This is our community. These are our tax dollars. This is our future to shape, not theirs to control. We're not here to pick a fight. We're here to protect what is ours and to stand up and defend our tax dollars.
It was Commissioner Kelly Martinez Simrad speaking outside of the administration building ahead of that meeting that is still going on right now. Simrad is one of two commissioners who voted against the ICE agreement to begin with. You heard her talk about that at the beginning of those remarks, Commissioner Wilson being the other. We are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this, so keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A registered sex offender from Indiana is accused of groping a 17-year-old on board a flight. According to investigators, this happened last week on a Spirit Airlines flight from Indianapolis to here in Orlando. Fox 35's Marley Capper reports what we know.
Good morning. Investigators say this all started after she asked the person sitting next to her if she could take a picture out of the window. Then the suspect, this man on your screen, John Fowler, asked if she could send it to him. Officials say at several points during the flight, this girl kept having to move his hand away from her. And at one point, she woke up to find Fowler touching her inappropriately. She screamed until a flight attendant moved her to the front of the plane. Spirit Airlines sent us this statement saying, quote, "Safety is our top priority and we have zero tolerance for the behavior as alleged. These allegations are serious and we will provide any necessary assistance to law enforcement in their investigation. Additionally, this individual is no longer welcome on any of our flights." We do know that Fowler was arrested. We're working to learn if he has bonded out at this point. We'll bring you that information online and on air as soon as it's available. For now, reporting from MCO, Marley Capper, Fox 35 News.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, I know we're watching some things in the tropics and also dealing with more of that heat here in Central Florida.
It's true, and more of the storms, and what a stormy day we had yesterday. You know, Garrett, because it rained so much yesterday, all that lightning, all that really heavy, even in places flooding rain, we're going to see our rain chances a little lower today with a little bit of a later onset than we'd otherwise see. So instead of storms kicking off as soon as maybe 1 or 2, it'll be more like 5 or 6 this evening, and most of them will be probably from Orlando points west. But we've got about a 60% chance for rain developing over the next 12 hours. And looking ahead to our high temperatures today, 95 the high today in Orlando. So beyond the rain chances, steam heat and what could be the approach of dangerous levels of the feels like temperature, the heat index, maybe approaching 108 degrees. Well, steam heat's going to be one of the bigger weather stories today as compared to the rain. The rain's still going to be a thing, but I think a lot of folks working outside will welcome it during the afternoon and the evening. Just watch out for the lightning. We're going to see downpours as soon as 5 o'clock, as you can see here on future radar. It looks like they'll be most persistent along what I call the spine of Florida, up along really the hill that goes from north to south. Did you know that's actually an extension of the Appalachians? It's the southernmost extension. There's about a 300-foot ridge that goes down from central Georgia all the way south through the Lake County region, Sumter County, and then down into Polk County before it starts to ease back to sea level toward the Everglades. Interesting, but that can also be a focus point for some of the rain, depending on how things go. There's a little bit of a natural lift that happens with the East Coast and West Coast sea breeze colliding. That, combined with a lot of moisture in place, will lead to a likely chance, at least statistically, of rain in that orange zone. 60% chance from Gainesville to the Villages, including the city of Orlando, points west. But in Sanford, in Oviedo, about a 40% chance. We may still catch some rain, it just won't be as much or as likely. And then once you get over to the Atlantic coast, even lower rain chances. But frequent lightning will be the #1 threat, so you got to watch out for that as far as life and limb goes. Blinding downpours on some highways, of course. Think Florida Turnpike. Severe wind gusts can't be ruled out, and there could be an isolated tornado. We did have a tornado warning yesterday in the Narcoossee region of northern Osceola County along Nova Road. That lasted for 10 minutes. There were a couple of viewer photos of what could have been funnel clouds, but nothing confirmed, no damage reported. That said, this stationary front, which will help to focus our rain chances and keep them high throughout this work week, will also possibly result in low pressure developing in the Atlantic, and that low pressure could become a tropical system. So that leads me to this, your tropical update. Yep, sometimes the daily weather forecast becomes the tropical update because the same thing driving our daily weather can also drive the development of low pressure systems. That's exactly what may happen on the Atlantic side, just off the coast of Florida. A stationary front that's been present for the better part of the last week will potentially, if not likely, develop at least an area of low pressure. But because the water's so warm, the National Hurricane Center is watching this for a potential of development in the next week or so. A slow but steady shot. There's now a medium chance up from a low chance. A 40% shot over the next 7 days, a 10% chance over the next 48 hours. So this would likely be later in the week. This is a look at Tropical Storm Dexter. Dexter is north of Bermuda, and it continues its trek northeastward. No threat to land with this one, but it is the 4th named storm, and it's a sign of a very active chapter in the hurricane season, all very typical for August. Once you get into August, things start really ramping up, and there's a tropical wave emerging from the African coast that has a medium 50% chance of developing into a tropical system. Some of the long-range models actually bump that up into hurricane territory. Too soon to say, we'll monitor it. That's look at your tropical update. Let's talk 7-day forecast. We've got temperatures that will be steamy today with mid-90s, and then looking ahead, rain chances going up, which will bring our temperatures down a little bit thanks to the increased cloud cover and the earlier onset of the rain, kind of pulling the carpet out from underneath the potentially higher temperatures. So our typical high this time of year, 92, it looks like we're going to be about there starting tomorrow and continuing through early next week. But it's because of the rain. So Garrett, if we didn't have rain chances at 70%, we'd still be in that positive territory with above normal temperatures, which has been the name of the game this summer. It's been pretty wild to look back at the last several summers. In 2023, we went from a typical either 1 or 2 heat advisories issued per summer when the feels like temperature gets up to 108 to a whopping 25 of them. Incredible. And then in 2024, last year, we had 18. And so far this season, we've had 11. And we may see 15 or 16 before the summer's out. And a lot of people have been asking, well, what's going on? When you think climate change, global warming, it doesn't happen like that. But one thing that did happen is the eruption of that South Pacific Hunga Tonga volcano that put copious trillions of gallons of water vapor into the stratosphere. There's a potential that acted to blanket the Earth a little bit and warm things up here locally. But there's a lot of science and research going into why suddenly it's become so humid just like that in places like Florida over the last 3 summers.
Interesting. I will say I went on a run yesterday afternoon, early evening, and it was so humid, and then it started raining, and I was like, thank you. It felt amazing for a little bit.
I hear you. When it's this hot, and I know what you mean, you're soaked like in a frog slime almost when you're running in this weather, the rain actually dries you off. That's how heavy you sweat.
Yep, you're right about that. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
You got it. My pleasure as always. Thanks, Garrett.
We're going to take another break here on Fox 35 News Plus. As we do so, I give you a view of downtown Orlando on this Tuesday morning. Keep it right here. More Fox 35 News Plus in 2 minutes. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus as we look at downtown Orlando and Lake Eola. And just a little bit ago, we heard from Chief Financial Officer Blaise Ingoglia, who is on the ground in Orlando, or was this morning, along with some of the teams from the Department of Government Efficiency at the state level. We know those auditors are going to be on site for several days this week, looking into the spending of Orange County. We did hear from the CFO, Blaise Ingoglia, who spoke to reporters just a little bit ago about these local government audits that the state is doing. He said his main concern in looking at this is home affordability. He said he wants local governments across the state really to cut spending as a response to what we've seen in rising property taxes over the past few years. This is what Blaise Ingoglia told reporters when he spoke with them just a little bit ago about what the DOGE team is doing here in Orange County and what we can expect from their findings.
Start off with some comments about why we're here, what we're doing, and why this is important, I think, to the taxpayers of the state of Florida. A lot of this is resulted from conversations that the governor and I had about property taxes. We have seen a rise in property values with a corresponding rise in property taxes, and what we've seen over the last 5 years, especially post-COVID, we've seen a lot of increases in property tax receipts, resulting in general government growing. And we do not think it is right that taxpayers get to foot the bill for government excesses. So one of the things that we are planning on doing is doing some cursory reviews, some of them a little bit more in depth, looking at a lot of government spending, making sure that they're not paying for things that are not prescribed in law. And in addition, things that probably could be deemed wasteful. Because there's one thing I know about government, I know this, is that when we start looking at putting a property tax referendum on the ballot in November 26, local governments, every local government, whether it's going to be a red county or blue county, is going to make every excuse in the book why they cannot cut property taxes. And I know for a fact that there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the system, things that governments probably should not be spending money on, that they are basically charging the taxpayers. Now, having said that, local governments love playing games. They say that we're holding the millage rate at the same amount, but when you have rising property taxes holding the millage rate at the same amount, that generates extra income, and that is a tax increase. So when you have rising property values, millage rates theoretically should be going down, or at the very least adopting the rollback rate, which then holds revenues at the same. One of my big things that I am worried about in the state of Florida is home affordability, housing affordability, just the affordability in general in the state of Florida. I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that we do not turn this place into New York or California. So with that, more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I have a little time. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the methodology for the numbers that you put out in the letter? You said increasing the revenues by $303 million annually in the county, but looking at the county's numbers, that's total budget. Where's that number coming from?
So the number, I would have to refer that back to Eric Soskin at DOGE, working out of the governor's office. He's the one that's compiling all that information. All that information I think he retrieved directly from county finance reports.
Is your understanding that's coming from what the rollback rate would have been?
No, I think those are general, I think those are just general receipts that are coming in for government.
What do you say to the folks that say you're just targeting the Democratic counties?
We're not. We've hit Pinellas County, which is a red county. I'm going to be headed to Manatee County after this. I do not care personally, and I don't think the governor does either, if it is a red county or a blue county, because quite frankly, every county has seen an increase in government spending over the last 5 years.
These cities like Jacksonville, who you've sent a letter to saying they are not cooperating, what are those cities like Jacksonville not doing to open the doors to you?
Sure, great question. The first thing that you have to realize is that I have a pretty broad constitutional authority to do these audits, including giving subpoenas to make sure that we get the information. Those are unconditional. It's also in Florida statute that we passed last year that created Florida DOGE. This is not a negotiation with local government. So we've had counties that have asked us to sign non-disclosure agreements for public information. And in the case in Jacksonville, they were asking to sign a some sort of technology user agreement. That is not prescribed in law. I don't understand what they think we're going to do with the information or having access to their files, because the access to the files is prescribed in law. There is nothing in Florida's law that says that we actually have to file an agreement with that. All of the auditors, all the employees that are on site are bound by current state law. They're not going to share any information they're not supposed to share, and they are going to make sure that they're taking care of every precaution to make sure information does not get out.
What are some specific examples of waste, fraud, and abuse that you found or that you're suspicious of?
Well, first, that's what we're here for. We're here to see that because we know that there are some, and we're going to find it, whether it be we're going to let you know when the report comes out. The report's going to come out in 60 days, and we will lay out what they are. But I will tell you that we just do not pick these locations willy-nilly. It's because people inside government, some elected officials contact us and they tell us, hey, you should be looking at this department, what they did over here when they signed this contract. And when we see that smoke, there's usually fire. So that's why we're on site. Yes, sir.
You just touched on it a little bit, but procedurally from here, you're here today and tomorrow, your team's here today and tomorrow. What happens next? What does the rest of this audit look like, and when can we expect to get whatever your findings are?
Sure. So you're looking at about 3 to 4 days on site, compiling information, the information that we laid out in the audit letter that we sent to local governments, and then they go back to Tallahassee and they sit down with all the auditors and they start pouring all of this information. Some of it will be used, sifted through by AI. They're going to be looking at excessive spending in terms of personnel to see if some lucrative contracts were signed when they probably shouldn't have been. Maybe some comparable contracts in other cities or counties with the same vendor came in at less money. So those are the things that we're looking for. But this is like a cursory review, a high-level view of some of the bigger things. Now, I will tell you that regardless of what the DOGE audit comes out with in about 60 days, I can go back in and ask for some more granular detail, and we may do that at some point in the future.
And within the letter, they're all a little bit different, but some of the things you picked out in Orange County, transportation spending on crosswalks and whatnot, how were some of those things selected, and why were some of those things?
Because we're getting information to look there. So we're getting information, and if somebody contacts us and says, hey, you should look at this department, we just don't take that as gospel. If we start hearing other people saying you should look at that department, then that's when we start looking.
Can you detail what kind of complaint came in about Orange County or where it came from?
No, where the information that come in is just conversations that we have with people over the phone, and sometimes they tag people on social media saying, hey, you should look at this, and we take all of that into effect. Let me be clear, there are 67 counties, there are untold amount of municipalities, so there's a lot of government entities out there. We're not going to get to all of them, but we're getting to the ones where we think we can have some of the biggest impact on taxpayers and start the argument that we have to reduce property taxes. Orange County has been cooperative so far. We hope that they continue to be cooperative. Look, if the people in Orange County, the elected officials, truly care about the taxpayer, they're going to do everything that they can in order to give property tax relief, because if they care about the constituents first, that's one of the biggest issues on voters' minds. Yes, ma'am?
Which counties asked you to sign NDAs?
Gainesville, City of Gainesville asked for an NDA to be signed, and when I found that out, I think the DOGE team had already agreed to doing that, and I said we are not going to do that again. We are not going to sign any documentation. We are not going to have on-site audits based on their playing field. They're not going to dictate to us how we do that. We, Florida law, Constitution, dictate how that happens.
There have been complaints that this process and others from the state are taking away local governments, taking away the power from local governments to do what people have elected to do. What's your reaction to this?
Are you talking about the home rule argument? Okay, let me, this is what I say about the home rule argument, especially cities. Cities come to the legislature in order to be incorporated to create the city, and then they create the city and they wind up overtaxing, overspending, adding onerous regulations on the people, and then who protects the people? That's where the state comes in. So I don't buy this argument that the state shouldn't get involved in home rule. the people who wanted a home rule come to the state and ask for permission to form that home rule. Who's going to watch for the taxpayers? I tell you who. I am. The governor will.
See, the biggest budgets, though, are fire, police.
Yes.
Are you going to look to make sure, I know you don't like to cut when it comes to that, but are you going to look at those budgets, too, to make sure that that's being spent correctly, because maybe that money could be used somewhere?
Yeah, we're going to look at every aspect of spending. Personnel obviously is a big issue. And like you and I have had conversations before, is that the first duty of government is to protect its citizens. So if government was doing what they were supposed to be doing in terms of zero-based budgeting and starting to see what is absolutely necessary, the first line items that they fund should be fire and police, and then everything else after that. Then you go to essential programs, and then towards the end, what we've seen traditionally from local governments is they wind up adding a lot of fluff and wind up spending things on that they shouldn't be spending on. Yes, ma'am. I will tell you, I am personally looking at, from the CFO's office, irrespective of what DOGE does over the next, 6 months, almost all of them. It's just going to be a matter of time when we get around to all of them. Look, some of them may be adversarial, some of them may not be adversarial. But I do know this, is that there are elected officials, whether it is city commissioners, city councilmen, constitutional counties where you have actually commissioners on there. Commissioners. A lot of times what we've seen is that staff will tell them one thing in terms of politically, and then they're turning around and staff is doing something completely opposite. I've seen that firsthand in some of the counties that I represent. And then when we wind up telling them that your county is spending money on X, and the elected officials didn't know that they were spending money on X, it's usually the elected officials get frustrated because they're not being told the complete and honest truth from staff.
Do you plan to expand the DOGE efforts to state government and even the executive office of the governor?
So what we're planning on doing is looking at everything. We have already have something in within state government that continues to look at that. When you look at state government compared to the federal government and local government, we are by far the most fiscally conservative in terms of putting money away and cutting budgets, giving money back to the taxpayer. So what we've seen is the excesses, a lot of the excesses, the ones that people feel on a daily basis, come from local government. So that's where we're concentrating first.
How did you pick the list? How did you go from 1 to 67?
So a lot of that has to do with the increase year over year in terms of percentage over the last 5 years and dollar amount also.
So Orange County was up there?
It was up there in terms of overall dollar amount, which was taken in by the local government and property taxes. Where Broward was a huge amount on a percentage basis and dollar amount also. So that's why they were number one on the list. I'm going to take one last question. I got to get going.
A lot of the cities and counties around here, not necessarily Orange County itself, are actually looking at raising the millage rate this year. A lot of them citing police and fire costs, salaries, and whatnot. What would your message be to those elected officials who are looking at that decision over the next month or two?
Sure. My message would be the voters are going to speak, raise the millage rate, raise taxes, and they'll find themselves out of a job real quick.
That was CFO Blaise Ingoglia speaking in Orlando this morning, telling reporters that the audit teams, the DOGE teams, will be there for 3 to 4 days this week, looking through the records of Orange County, looking at the spending, and then we can expect a final report in about 60 days. Should also note that the CFO is traveling to Bradenton this afternoon, one of the other areas, the local governments that is going to be audited by the DOGE team. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back. As we do go to break, want to remind you we are continuing to monitor what's going on inside this Orange County Commission meeting, where we do expect them soon to consider the ratification of the ICE addendum, which would include transportation of the detainees. This has been a controversial thing. We've heard from dozens of speakers urging them not to take that step today, urging them to fight it and file a lawsuit challenging the state on that. So we will see what ends up happening here shortly. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more Fox 35 News Plus right after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. And it has been a busy morning, specifically in Orlando and in Orange County, where a lot is happening today. We are continuing to monitor that the commission meeting for the discussion over the ICE addendum. We also took you earlier to this news conference that happened before that meeting, where they talked about a number of issues, including what they call state overreach from state leaders, impacting their ability as a local government to serve and represent their residents. We heard from Kelly Martinez-Simbrad earlier in the show. We also heard from another commissioner, Nicole Wilson, who represents District 1. She spoke during that. We also heard from a couple of state representatives who were there, including Anna Escamani and Rita Harris, both of them Democrats from Orlando. I want to go ahead and play for you a little bit more from that news conference as they talk about a number of other different issues, including those DOGE audits that we just heard about from Blaise and Ingoglia, and also some sharp words of criticism for Governor DeSantis.
We received not one, not two, but 3 absurd letters from non-electeds, bureaucrats, appointees, people who are paid more than just about everybody on my floor up there, to come in and scrutinize who you hired for your local leadership, who you hired to do things like protect our environment, to make sure that the people that live here are cared for, to make sure that when they call 911, someone shows up there. That's what we do in local government. But what the state wants us to do is to create some distraction so you don't notice how corrupt they are. They are blowing hundreds of millions of dollars to do some kind of performance for the nation of how loyal they are to the administration in Washington, D.C. And this is on your dollars. This is going to pull your resources from our corrections facility. Potentially, it will have a trickle-down effect to other public safety investments. And I think it's so important for you to understand, one of the things that makes local government so great is your engagement. I look at the people here today. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. These are the people that put us in office. I answer to you. I don't answer to them. I said an oath to you. The idea of being threatened, that we are being threatened. Now this is an agreement. They call it an agreement still, and now there's an addendum to an agreement, and they're still calling it an agreement. But if we don't sign it, if we don't endorse it, what happens? We're removed from office. And then some other appointed bureaucrat gets put right in that spot. I can only speak for myself, but I am going to continue to stay the course on being a compassionate leader in Orange County and being a responsible leader in Orange County. Those things can be done simultaneously. We can be compassionate and efficient. And let me just tell you something, we will not bend. I understand that what happened last week looked like whiplash, that Orange County decided we were going to make sure that we were keeping our resources here at home, and then all of a sudden we heard about the mayor being forced to sign this agreement. But make sure that you focus on that word, forced, under duress, under extreme duress. Now listen, you don't have to be a contract attorney to know that under extreme duress does not make a valid contract.
And I have a message for Governor Ron DeSantis. Go Doge yourself. And I don't mean that to be cheeky. I mean that to be efficient. There are so many opportunities for Governor Ron DeSantis to look in the mirror and hold himself accountable. The Hope Florida controversy. Where did the $10 million go, Governor and Attorney General Uthmeier? How about spending more than $500 million on building an immigration camp in the middle of the Everglades, hiding contracts from the public, no due process for those who are detained, and lying to us the entire time as this process unfolds. And by the way, I will be in federal court tomorrow as a witness defending the Friends of the Everglades to close down this detention camp. Now, I will be brief because I know we have many speakers and we also have a meeting to get to, but I want to emphasize a few quick points to first of all affirm the reality that here in Orange County, our commissioners are incredibly responsible with our dollars, to the point where there are not enough dollars to be invested in the things that we need, which is why many of us have pushed for reform on the tourism development tax. That's why many of us are continuously pushing to change the status quo of how we currently have restricted dollars, because we know where the need is, and yet we don't have the money to invest in it, like transportation and so forth. When you look at the Orange County budget, the reality is our biggest expenses are police and fire. And our correctional officers in particular are already substantially understaffed, overworked. Mandatory overtime is the norm at our county jail. And so now the assertion that our county staff have to do the job of the federal government, I don't think so. And the federal government isn't even following basic humanitarian laws or guidance. We've seen this vigilante-style immigration enforcement where they are dragging people out of courtrooms, raiding places of work, and I have visited the jail. I've spoken to the detainees who are there on ICE holds. None of them have any criminal background. These are farm workers, construction workers, roofers, plumbers. These are folks who are cleaning your hotel rooms. They're making our community work. And now we're expected under duress to pursue an anti-immigrant agenda that not only scares people and divides our community, but it does not make us more safe. Because law enforcement should be focused on going after actual violent criminals, not hardworking immigrants, not the parents of some of our Hope youth that are here today. These are families that have called Central Florida home and have committed to supporting this great community. Now, Senate Bill 180, another example of state interpretation, bullying Orange County away from defending our dollars. It's so important to remember that even the bill sponsors of this legislation did not expect for there to be this type of backlash from the state of Florida. That was never their intention, and we have to ensure that we hold the line on this point and every point. And then finally, I just want to emphasize an opportunity for Orange County, and that is to file a lawsuit. We need to fight back.
State Rep Anna Escamani calling for the fighting back, calling for a lawsuit as well. That's something we heard from a lot of people who were speaking during public comment in that meeting earlier as well. So wanted to let you know where things stand as we get closer to noon here. The meeting still on the first item of kind of B on the agenda of the discussion agenda. We're looking for basically 2 more items. So we will cut in here on Fox Local when that discussion begins. Just wanted to let you know. Otherwise.